Hello everyone, it's Imran here. Welcome back to another video. So I'm going to react to another Thomas audio story by Kiefer Adams. This was the newest one. This one was uploaded yesterday, and it's an audio special called Thomas and the World Beyond Sodor. So yeah, you read the title right there. There are worlds beyond Sodor that Thomas wants to go visit. I guess this is Kiefer's model series version of Journey Beyond Sodor, I guess. So the last video from Kiefer I reacted to was another audio special, and that was Sodor's early beginnings. It was, and that was actually quite a good story to watch. It was. You want to see much that out? I will have it up in the top right corner of your screen. So yeah, that was actually quite a good one. So Thomas the Tank Engine is not the only childhood classic that graced our television screens. Many other shows were also around back then too. But what if some of them came together? Yep, that's right. You read it right there. I mean, Thomas wonders if there's worlds beyond Sodor, and I think, judging from the thumbnail, that is going to be the case because I've seen Jupiter from Fireman Sam, the van, Postman Pat's van from obviously Postman Pat. Are we really about to see an ultimate crossover right here, even bigger than the big city, the two big city Thomas and Tug's audio stories I reacted to last year and this year I did? Is that what we're about to see right here? Here? I mean, judging from the thumbnail, it's definitely likely it is. So, when I saw this upload yesterday, I was like, I have to react to this at the first opportunity. And since today was my first opportunity, since I didn't get an opportunity over the weekend to record any videos, I was like, I'm reacting to this as soon as possible. I am. So, looks like it's going to be a very exciting audio story. I really am looking forward to it. There were lots of other shows, like so many shows I grew up when I was younger. There was Thomas, Bob, The Builder, Pingu, The Wiggles, Fireman Sam, Kipper. What else was there? So those were all shows by Hit Entertainment, they were. What else did I grow up with? Well, from the Nick Jr. side, there was Maggie and the Ferocious Beast, there was Max and Ruby, Blues Clues, the UK version with Kevin it was. There's just so many shows I can name from my childhood that I grew up with, but it'd be impossible for me to list it all. But let's see if there are worlds beyond Soda in the model timeline. I mean, judging from the thumbnail, it's more than likely, but I want to see it for myself. I do. Link for I'm reacting to in the description down below, as always. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get straight into this. I just want to react to this audio story straight away. I do, and it's quite a long one, over 17 minutes as well. So better get reacting to it.
Thomas and the Worlds Beyond Sodor. Written and told by Kiefer Adams. Thomas the Tank Engine is very proud to work on the Fat Controller's railway. He's also proud to work on his branch line, which he believes is the most important part on the whole of Sodor. However, there are times when Thomas has often thought what must lie beyond the Sodor world. What other towns and cities there are that have their own set of vehicles to help them make deliveries and call themselves really useful. It was only in recent weeks that Thomas had been pondering on this thought.
So this is like it's set during season 3.
However, many of the other engines weren't in agreement with him. I cannot believe you just said that, little Thomas, Gordon grunted one morning. How can you even think of such a thing? Rapped James. Think about your own work before you start dilly-dallying about other places. Oh, I'm sorry, it was just what I was thinking, said Thomas. Don't you two think about what lies beyond Sodor's tracks? The mainland, for a start, Gordon cut in. Yeah, what else is there? James exclaimed. Well, if the island of Sodor has the railway to keep it going, as well as the roads and waterways, said Thomas, what would other places out there have? Common sense, Gordon snapped crossly.
Wow.
You need to carry on with your work, little Thomas. And stop giving us this rubbish to think over, James grumbled. Thomas sighed and puffed away, rather hurt. I don't know where he gets these ideas from, Gordon huffed. Tell me about it, agreed James. It's as though he wants to go and see those places and leave us all here. A little later, Thomas was at the timber mill with Toby. Toby, he said, do you believe there are worlds beyond Sodor? I couldn't say, replied Toby. But if there were... Oh, he's not going on about that again, is he? Said a voice.
It's Henry.
Thomas and Toby looked as Henry puffed in with some empty flat trucks. Look, Thomas, I just got an earful from Gordon about your silly little topic. Now drop it already. But there must be something beyond our rails, said Thomas. You'll never give up on this, will you? Huffed Henry. Why can't you just accept what we've got? You wouldn't be really useful if you were swaggering around other places on the mainland in some other town or village. Where would you rather work? Grumbly Gasworks, for example? Thomas sighed. It was lucky for him that Henry's trucks were quickly loaded, and he puffed away indignantly.
Wow.
Those big engines are spoiling my mood, Thomas wheezed, and he huffed off, leaving a worried Toby behind. Thomas went back to the yards near the big station to do some shunting. He had just finished when Edward arrived. Don't tell me, said Thomas doubtfully. You're going to tell me there's no such thing as the worlds beyond Sodor as well. Actually, no, said Edward.
At least he's found a confronting.
I heard about your conversation. How? Let's just say James gave me quite the buffer ache when he arrived to shunt in my yard, said Edward.
Yeah.
So you agree? Well, sort of, said Edward. I believe there are different worlds out there, Thomas, but I'm not so sure. I've seen a lot of things in my time. It would be exciting to see something else for a change.
You would, because you're constantly working on them.
Don't agree, said Thomas. I'm not saying I am, and I'm not saying I'm not, said Edward. We can all think different things, Thomas, but sometimes some things are better kept in thought. Thomas reluctantly agreed. He went to collect Annie and Clarabel and hoped that a nice run up to his branch line would make him feel better. Bertie the bus was waiting for Thomas at the top station.
Oh, he doesn't look too happy.
He was hoping to have another race. But his face fell when a rather bad-tempered Thomas pulled up into the platform.
He does not look too happy.
It's not fair, he was saying to Annie and Clarabel. Why should I stop talking about it? I'm not hurting anyone. Well, maybe, dear, reassured Annie. You should be careful about how you word it, said Clarabel. Is everything all right? Asked Bertie. It's those silly big engines, grumbled Thomas. I only talked about the worlds beyond Sodor, and yet they said, Oh no, Thomas, there's no such thing. Oh no, Thomas, you should worry about your work. Oh
wow.
No, Thomas, we don't want it.
Wow, Thomas, imitating the big engines right there. That is something I wasn't expecting from one of Kiefer's audio stories.
Said, Oh no, Thomas, there's no such thing. Oh no, Thomas, you should worry about your work.
I'm trying to lip sync, it's not working.
No, Thomas, we don't want to hear it again. I'm sorry about that, said Bertie. Is there anything I can do? No, thank you, said Thomas sulkily. As much as I appreciate it, Bertie, I don't think anything will help. Just then the station master came to see Thomas's crew. Mavis is not feeling well, he said. Can Thomas go up to the quarry to do a bit of shunting? Yes, of course, replied Thomas's driver. The station master was pleased. I'll tell the Fat Controller. Great, Thomas huffed. Now I've got trucks to deal with. Thomas left Annie and Clarabel at the station and puffed sulkily away. Bertie was worried for his friend.
He's worried
I hope he'll be all right, he said to himself. Soon, Thomas was up at another quarry shunting trucks into their proper sidings. He grumbled dreadfully. The trucks had heard all about what Thomas had been talking about regarding the worlds beyond Sodor, and they delighted in teasing him about it. "Look, Thomas, we're going up to Grumbly Gasworks," they chortled. Thomas pretended not to hear. "I'd love to go to Pondy Pandy and put some fires out."
Pondy Pandy, reference to Five and Sam.
"What could be worse?" said an old van. "We could be going up to Greendale and deliver some post. Or we could follow a little brummy car around and do rescue missions," another truck shouted.
Ram as well.
Thomas was starting to lose his temper. "Or," said an elderly truck in the corner of the yard, "what we could do is visit a land made of toys and go bop 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 in a little yellow and red car." "Right!" bellowed Thomas. "That's it!" He gave the trucks an almighty biff. "Stop! We were only teasing! Stop! Stop!" they wailed, but it was no good. Too late, Thomas noticed that the turntable at the end of the quarry had not been set for him. Thomas applied his brakes as hard as he could. "Ooh!" he wailed. He watched with shock as 3 trucks in front of him fell straight into a turntable well. "Oh dear," groaned Thomas. There was worse
He's
to
be
come.
In so much trouble.
"Thomas the Tank Engine!" bellowed a familiar voice. Thomas's wheels froze. There, standing before him, was the Fat Controller. He had seen everything.
He was there
"I had
witnessing
come to thank you for helping Mavis at a tough time," said the Fat Controller. "But clearly this was not what I wanted to see upon arrival." "Yes, sir," said Thomas. He wanted to explain why he was cross, but he knew the Fat Controller wouldn't want to listen to excuses.
No.
"You will clear up this mess and then return to your shed," said the Fat Controller firmly. "I'll send Toby up the line to finish your job." "Of course, sir," said Thomas shamefully. As Thomas puffed away to fetch the cranes, he was at least glad that for now the trucks were no longer laughing at him. For a while, Thomas was the only engine in the shed, until the others returned one by one. James, Gordon and Henry kept making rude remarks about Thomas's ordeal, but they were soon hushed by Edward. Percy was the last engine to return, and could see that Thomas was very unhappy. "Don't worry," Percy soothed. "You're not the only one who thinks there are lands beyond the horizon." "I'm not?" asked Thomas. "Of course not," replied Percy. "Do you remember when Duck got mesmerised by that regatta?" "I think so," replied Thomas. "Well, Duck was like you," said Percy. "He thought he could go to faraway lands, and I agree with the pair of you." "You do?" asked Thomas. "Of course."
At least he's got his best
Percy.
friend to comfort him.
"But we'll talk about it tomorrow. Let's get some sleep." "Okay," sighed Thomas. The other engines turned in for the night, and one by one they drifted off to sleep. Thomas was woken up suddenly the next morning by the sound of a siren echoing in the distance. He hurried out of his shed and went to follow the noise. After a while, he stopped by a sign that said, "You are now entering Pondy Pandy." "Pondy Pandy?" spluttered Thomas. "That's not on the Sodor map." The siren grew louder, and Thomas was caught by surprise by a fire engine. It was large, red, and raring for action. "Where's the fire thing?" he demanded. "Fire?" stuttered
Is this
Thomas.
a dream that Thomas
"The
is having?
fire, dear boy, where is it?" cried the fire engine hastily. Thomas stared in admiration. "Who are you?" he asked. "Jupiter 999, said the fire engine.
Jupiter.
"I'm sorry, can't stop to talk. There's a fire to fight and duty calls. And the fire engine disappeared within seconds.
So that's how
What
Jupiter
is
looks in the Thomas
going
universe.
on? Pondered Thomas as he chuffed further down the line. Sure enough, Thomas left the road and came across a beautiful canal. The scenery was quite relaxing until
Ragdoll.
Thomas was surprised.
Is that the boat from Rosie and Jim right there? Is that supposed to be the boat from Rosie and Jim? Because it says Ragdoll, it
To
does.
see a canal boat floating gently down the lake beside him. Perched on top of her was a carved wooden duck, which moved its head from side to side.
Hello there,
Said the canal boat.
I haven't seen you around here before.
The feeling's mutual, said Thomas slowly. He never took his eyes off the canal boat. Who are you?
I'm Ragdoll.
Replied the canal boat.
Ragdoll.
My
Reference to
owner,
Ragdoll
John,
Productions
has just
right
gone
there.
to get some supplies. He writes stories about some little dolls in my cabin. Doesn't he, Duck?
Thomas looked at the carved wooden bird on Ragdoll's top. It moved its head from left to right before it made Thomas jump with a simple "Wah." I'd better get going, Thomas puffed, and he hurried away.
Well, nice talking to you.
Said Ragdoll.
He was something, wasn't he, Duck?
Quack! Was the only reply Ragdoll got. What is this railway coming
Greendale.
to? Groaned Thomas
Greendale.
as he
Okay, this is
puffed
definitely
along.
a dream sequence.
He soon came across another sign, which read, Welcome to Greendale. Greendale? Cried Thomas. Who's that over there? Called a voice. Thomas looked over a stone wall, and there before him was a little red van with a crown on its sides. Who are you? Asked Thomas. Pat, replied the van.
Ah, it's
My
Postman
owner's
Pat.
just gone for help. I broke down, you see. I need a bit of help. Can you go to Pencaster and see if they can bring a truck up here? I don't even know where Pencaster is, whimpered Thomas. As Thomas panicked about the situation, he started to feel rather strange. The world was fading into black, and he could hear the sound of birds twittering. When Thomas woke up, he was in for a surprise. He was back in his shed.
It was all just a
James,
dream.
Gordon, Henry, Percy and Edward had already gone. There was no Ragdoll, no Pat, no Jupiter, and no places like Pencaster, Greendale or Pondypandy.
I was
He
expecting
back in
more
the
to
sheds
appear,
of
though.
Tidmouth on the Fat Controller's railway. At that moment, Thomas's driver and fireman arrived. Oh, good, said Thomas's driver, you're up. The Fat Controller is relying on you to work hard today. Yes, of course, said Thomas. Soon his fire was burning nicely, and Thomas went to do some shunting in the yard. Percy had already done most of the shunting when Thomas arrived. Oh, good, you're here, puffed Percy. I was worried about you. Really? Why? You kept saying weird things in your sleep last night, said Percy, almost like towns that aren't even on our Sudrian map. Oh,
Yeah.
Don't worry about that, said Thomas. It was just a weird dream, that's all. He was just about to tell Percy all about it when James bustled in. Oh, look who it is, said Thomas smugly. Thomas, said James, I am so sorry about yesterday. I should never have listened to Gordon. But do you still believe there are worlds beyond Sodor? Thomas gave a small smile. I'd like to think so, he admitted. But there's
least
no
James
time to talk
apologised.
about it now. We've got work to do, and we must make the Fat Controller proud. And Thomas puffed away to shunt some trucks. Is he feeling all right? Asked James. I think he'll be just fine, Percy smiled happily. Thomas the Tank Engine is proud to work on the Fat Controller's railway. He is also proud to work on his branch line. But now, after what he had dreamed about the previous night, he strongly believes that there are many worlds beyond Sodor. Some we know already, others have yet to be discovered. Thomas would never trade it for anything else, and I think he knows that the one world he's proud to be a part of is that of one involving all of his friends on the island of Sodor, a magical place where dreams can often come true.
Wow. Wow, that story did definitely not disappoint right there. I was kind of a bit disappointed that it was just a dream it was, because I would have loved to to have seen how it where Thomas actually goes off to the mainland for a little bit, and he comes across all these different vehicles right there and realizes there are worlds beyond Sodor. But wow, so many shows that a lot of us grew up with right there. And you know what makes me sad? It's that as we get deeper into this century, these things are just going to become more and more of a thing of the past right here. My concern is that of kids now will never experience anything like we had back in the day. We did right there. Obviously, you've got Coco Melon, stuff like that. Paw Patrol. I still think Paw Patrol is a good TV show, by the way, because of its adult fan base it has. But they just don't stack up to the old classic shows that we had back in the day, like Thomas, Bob. You know, Kiefer, there's just so many shows British shows that I believe that are beyond Sodor right there, right there. You know what I would like to see? I would love to see a sequel to this story where Thomas is given the opportunity to go beyond Sodor. He is into the mainland, and then he discovers all these places that what he saw in his dream are true, and he also discovers other places like maybe he can meet maybe he can meet the likes of Jupiter. Well, not Jupiter as a face, but Jupiter along with Fireman Sam and his crew. Uh, Pat's van with Postman Pat and Jess the cat. Obviously the Ragdoll barge, obviously, but maybe others like Brum. Maybe possibly see Bob the Builder. Maybe visit Bobsville, see Bob and his team. And who else? Kipper. Maybe Kipper exists beyond Sodor. He does in the English countryside. I mean, the countryside Kipper lives in might be on Sodor. It might, but there's just so many endless possibilities of British shows that exist in the same world. I'd like to think that four of them, Thomas, Bob, Sam, and Pat, all exist in the same timeline they do, because they're kind of like the core. They're like the four core British shows that everyone grew up with: Thomas, Bob, Sam, and not Kippo, Pat. They're the four shows. They are the four shows that everyone's pretty much core British shows that everyone grew up with. They did, but it was, like I said, it was fantastic to see. To see all Thomas, to see all these different shows right here. Jupiter, Ragdoll, and then Pat's fan right there. Right there. Like I said, bit disappointing it was a dream. I would have loved to see it when Thomas would have had to go to the mainland and he would have discovered that what he said was actually true. But I want to see a sequel. I actually want to see a sequel to this audio story where Thomas is given the opportunity to go beyond Sodor, and he's given the opportunity to prove everyone wrong. And he doesn't see any of it, and just when he starts to lose hope, he sees it. He sees it all for the first time, he does. So, yeah, that is definitely something I would love to see. I'd love to see a sequel to this audio story where it is proven true it is. So yeah, I've got nothing else to say right there. That was such a fantastic audio story, Kiefer. I really did enjoy it, and I hope to see a sequel to this in the future where we include some more cartoon shows. Maybe not the vehicles like Jupiter and Pat's vehicle having faces, but maybe like Fireman Sam and Postman Pat themselves I would like to see. Maybe also, like I said, like the likes of Bob the Builder, Brum, and maybe even Kipper as well. There's all kinds of British shows I would love to see. Maybe even Paddington Bear. Maybe Paddington Bear would be a good one we could see right there because he's British as well. But this was definitely a good audio story. It was. I definitely enjoyed it. You do want to see my previous Thomas reactions, whether it's an audio story or Trains adaptation. I will have a playlist up on the top right corner of your screen right now. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button for me. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought this audio story I reacted to. Also, let me know in the comments down below what other videos, excuse me, you want me to react to next. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. Links to both of them will be in the description down below. Share this video, subscribe if you're new here, ring that bell to get notified for when I upload new videos, when I post in the community tab, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!